Good morning. My name is Tom Witek with justsellinghomes.ca. Today I wanted to do a complementary video. Now this video complements another video that I have done about the new standardized lease agreement. Now, before I so the video is going to be about filling out the residential tenancy agreement between landlord and the tenant. But before I get into it, I found a nice way to record basically your screen, your PC screen. And to do this, you just need microphone and a program. It's actually a free program. It's called OBS Studio. Now, if you want to use tablet, then you would use DU Recorder. It's pretty good software too. It captures the screen, and all you need is a microphone to record. Okay, so let's get into it. So as you see, I have the open lease agreement right here, and this is basically it's a new provincial lease that the it's a new provincial document that is going to be effective for all tenancies in Ontario as of April 30, 2018. Okay, I am not sure if other provinces have standardized their lease agreements, but Ontario finally did. So so you can see it's right here. I'm gonna put a link to my blog, and on the blog I'm gonna actually put the agreement, which you can download and fill out. This is the agreement that everybody's gonna be using. Okay. So so you see the standard form of lease residential tenancy agreement. Now, how do you fill this out? Okay. So let's say I'm going to put my name for the landlord. Okay, then you're going to go to section B. Let's say your tenant is going to be Jack Machiavelli. And obviously you would oh, okay. So Machiavelli is last time. Oh, that's how they did it. It was first name, last name before. So Machiavelli Jack, and then you add the tenants or the kids of the tenants. Now you obviously fill out the unit. So let's say it's 75, street number 200, Sunshine Avenue. Okay, in the province of Ontario. I am in Ottawa, salesperson in Ottawa, and obviously there would be like K23, well, K23 F5 J2. Now, this is important. You gotta specify if with the lease you actually giving the tenants the right to a parking space. So you would write one parking space included or excluded, depending on what you want to do, in the lease parking number 56, let's say. Okay. The rental unit is a unit in a condominium. Now, obviously, that depends. If you have condominium, it's going to be condominium. For the purposes of this training tutorial, I'm going to say no. This is important. So there's going to be a separate schedule, which is called the condominium declaration, bylaws, and rules, which the landlord can provide to the tenant, and the tenant can read. You can actually make the tenant initial the condominium, that they did read it, and that should be sufficient. Now, this is address for giving notices or documents to the landlord. So for example, I don't know, let's say a student is renting your unit. You would probably want their permanent address, which would be probably their parents' address. So you would put that here, depending on situation. Both the landlord and tenant agree to receive notices and documents by email where allowed by landlord and tenant board's rules. Okay, so let's say yes. In Ontario, you can do email, you can do faxes. Probably email is the most convenient. Okay, so you see it here. Now this term of tenancy, okay, so let's say it starts, so we are here at February 26th. Let's say it starts in March 1st, okay. So it depends how you want to set this up. Fixed length of time ending on, so that would end on February 28, 2019. It's a year, right? Or a monthly, you would do it per month. Or you can do daily, weekly. Now daily would be more for like a short term, maybe Airbnb tenancy. Okay, so just to add to this, basically if you do a fixed length ending on, you can do it for even 2 years, right, or 3 years, but usually it's done per year. The tenant automatically goes on month to month, okay, and they still have to give 60-day notice when they're month to month. Now the section 5 says rent is to be paid on the first, second, on the last day of each month, or week, depending on the agreement, and the tenant will pay the following rent. So let's say base rent is 1,500. Now, depending, remember that section that we discussed before, if you put parking included or excluded. In my case, I am going to put it included. And here it's very important to specify services and utilities, whether the landlord pays it or the tenant. So what are the these utilities? So obviously electricity paid by a tenant, and you got to specify this because otherwise you know, you want to avoid agreements, disagreements. Water and sewage, tenant. And for Ottawa, as of January of last year, I believe, City of Ottawa issued that basically for water and sewage, you need to fill out one of their forms so that the tenant can actually set up the account for the property. Now, all of these accounts are in tenants' names, not in the landlord's names. Okay, what am I missing? Electricity, water, and sewage, and what am I missing? Electricity, water, and sewage. Gas, natural gas. So you would put and this most likely would be Enbridge. Okay, so it's paid by tenant. Now, I'm not sure if you want to put in this section because this pertains to service and utility. So probably there's another section that basically, if it's a condo, then the condo's fees are usually paid by the landlord, and same for property taxes. Yeah, so you got your base rent, you got your parking, and you got your utilities, and you got to specify how much it is and who's paying for what. Okay. And obviously here it would be you would put as per usage. Here it says where the rent is payable to, And on my other video I actually discussed, because many people think, tenant and landlords, that tenant has to pay by post-dated checks or account withdrawals, which is actually not the case. It's only if the tenant agrees to it. You can agree with the tenant, both parties, to do electronic transfer, which is probably the easiest thing to do, because it gives you electronic receipt once the tenant pays and the landlord deposits the money. It says right here, the tenant cannot be required to pay rent by post-dated checks or automatic payments, but can choose to do so. Okay, so the first rental period is a partial period. Okay, so this is like, okay, let's say I want to, it's 26. Let's say I want to start on the 28th, okay? So you would pay just for 1 day and then go until March. I mean, usually people start from the 1st of each month. This is standard, and this is interesting. The landlord administration charge for NSFX cannot be more than $20. Strange that they would put this, because banks usually charge you more for a check. There we go. And then you have, why do you have reiteration of this? I don't know. But anyway, so I guess they included additionally that the following services are included in the lawful rent, and then you would put yes, 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 or no, 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 right? Air conditioning, gas, and all the stuff that you have here. It's kind of double. I don't know why they did that, but I guess to make sure that, you know, everybody understands that what their obligations are. And this is additional stuff if you have, I don't know, special services in the condominium or something like that. I don't know, let's say example, if they do dry cleaning at the condo place, then you would put that tenant is responsible for the payments. Again, the following utilities are the responsibility of either landlord or tenant. Tenant has to set up the account, which is great, because in a previous lease they didn't have that, so you kind of needed some kind of schedule to make sure that the tenant knows how to pay and that they have to even set up the accounts, right? Now this is a new thing. If the tenant will be responsible for paying for electricity measured by meter or suite meter, the landlord must give the prospective tenant available information about the electricity usage in the rental unit over the last 12 months using the appropriate landlord and tenant board form. So landlords, make sure that you do get from previous tenants copies of their bills, because now you got to provide this to the new tenant. Okay, so that's one thing that changed. Now rental discounts, I mean, not too many people apply these. I'm not even going to discuss. Rent deposit. Now, rent deposit is required or not. The deposit is to be applied to the last rental period of the tenancy. And so you would apply it to like February, because we're starting March, right? So February of next year, of 2019. You gotta pay your tenant interest on this money, because you're holding it for a year. Usually it's a small amount. The only other deposit that you can get is the key deposit. And right now, they emphasize that there's no such thing as pet deposit or a damage deposit that the landlord can extract from their tenants. But they can do the key. Well, what am I doing? Key deposit. So you would put, I'm not, what, $59 to replace the keys and cards. maybe more. If you gotta hire somebody, I guess you're gonna pay $200 to the person. Smoking. Okay, so this is the same as, I mean, the tenant can smoke, is just do not smoke inside of the unit. Now with the new marijuana law that is coming in July 1st, I'm not sure how this will apply. The government still has to tell us what's going to happen with that. But you can, but probably, I mean, if you cannot smoke cigarettes in the unit, why would you be able to smoke pot, right? So that's that. Tenant insurance, always get tenant insurance because it covers everybody. Like the landlord needs the insurance on the unit, and the tenant needs insurance for their belongings and liability in case of something were to happen physically to them on the property. The insurances will talk between each other, so you would always put this. Don't ever do that. Changes to the rental unit, this is standard again, and you need tenants need permission from the landlord. Maintenance and repairs, I mean, if it's minor repairs, that the tenants are responsible for it, and usually it's like negligence, the dog peeing on the floors or whatever, I mean, you're responsible for that. Assignment and subletting, I mean, again, it has to go through the landlord. Landlord has to do the checks. Now this is important. Number 15 is basically like a leniency clause. It's called additional terms, and here basically landlords, it's flexibility, right? So landlords and tenants can agree on certain things. It has to be lawful, something that they agree on, right, under Residential Tenancy Act. Yeah, and you can read that. So you would most likely put this tenancy agreement includes an attachment with additional terms that the landlord and tenant agreed to. Now, it has to be basically legal clauses before you would put Schedule A with legal clauses. Now I guess we're gonna do an attachment. Okay, and then you would do the signatures of landlords and tenants, and you get the appendix information that's attached to the actual lease, see? So you can read all that, renewing the tenancy agreement. So if the landlord and tenant agree that the tenancy will last for a specific period of time, this is called fixed term tenancy. This is because both the start and the end are set out in the tenancy agreement. The end of the agreement does not mean that the tenant has to move out or sign a renewal or new agreement in order to stay. The rules of the agreement will still apply, and the tenant still has the right to stay. So they will go on a month to month, okay? Ending of the tenancy, the landlord and tenant must follow the rules of the act when ending the tenancy. And it's the standard 60 days notice if they have a monthly or fixed term tenancy. So how does that work? Okay, so you have a yearly tenancy, right? Let's say you're starting in March 1st. So you gotta give 60 days in advance that you're leaving as tenant. So you would give this on February, January, on December 31st. That's right. On December 31st you would give this. And then if you switch on a monthly, so you go here and you start another one on March 1st, 2019, then you are switching automatically onto monthly tenancy. And let's say in August, 1st of August you want to leave, so you would give your notice May 30th, which is 60 days prior to that, to make it all legal. There are various stipulations for the landlord to end the tenancy, which are the usual ones that we had. You can mutually agree to end tenancy, again giving notices, rent and rental receipts. It depends how you agree onto this, but the tenant should have a receipt for each monthly rent they paid. Deposits. So the only deposit you can do is the rent deposit for last month's rent, okay? And key deposit, as discussed previously. Rent increases. This is like you can go get the schedule from the tenancy board, and you're gonna get the increases that the landlord can do. Vital services. Everybody is entitled to vital services, so the landlord cannot just go in and cut off somebody's service. Harassment, discrimination, all the good things. Now this is landlord's entry into rental unit, okay? So usually the landlord gives 24 hours notice to make repairs, inspect the unit, show the rental unit to possible buyer. They can do this at any time, just need the 24-hour notice. Let a real estate agent show the unit to possible buyer, have a property inspection done before converting the residential building into a condominium. In case of emergency, when tenant agrees to it. Now, this is kind of silly, but I mean, some people actually do this. So the landlord cannot change the locks of the rental unit unless the landlord gives the new keys to the tenant. The tenant cannot change the locks of the rental unit without the consent of the landlord. Okay, assign and sublet, you can do this. Guests. The landlord cannot stop tenants from having guests, require the tenants to notify the landlord or get the landlord's permission before having guests. So basically you can have guests, but obviously the problem is if these guests destroy anything, then you as the principal lessee are required to pay for those damages. So make sure you know what guests you allow into the house. Pets. A tenancy agreement cannot prohibit animals in the rental unit or in around the residential building. Of course, if there's waste involved or noises, the landlord can throw you out, given the right eviction notices and all that. Smoking is not permitted. You can smoke outside, but not in the unit because it's a health issue. Smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. That's standard, and that's it, guys. So you have this. So anyway, in probably 2 days you can visit my blog, and I'm gonna attach link to it in the description section of this video. And you can basically attach this, and you will be able to see and download the actual residential tenancy agreement standard form of lease effective April 30, 2018. And the nice thing, it is actually it's actually fillable, so you can fill it out, print it, and make the tenant sign your agreement when you find one. Okay. Again, my name is Tom Witek. I'm with Your Choice Realty Corp Brokerage, and you can find more information about me at justsellinghomes.ca. If you like this video, please do subscribe. We're gonna have other videos coming. We already have 18 videos or so on my channel, plus I'm working with another mortgage broker who also posts videos on his channel, and you can get more information about issues related to real estate. Okay, so again, justsellinghomes.ca, and my YouTube channel is this one. I'm going to put the link below. Thank you.